Hello my dear friends and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Joycey Joy and today in this lecture we will discuss about the Supreme Court order on electoral bonds. First of all, let us understand what is the current affair. The Supreme Court of India has recently ordered the political parties to submit to the Election Commission the details of contributions that they received through electoral bonds. So the current affair is that the Supreme Court has ordered various political parties that in order to increase the transparency and accountability of the political parties to the Election Commission of India, they have to submit a detailed form in which they have to make all the necessary details furnished regarding the contributions that they have received through the electoral bonds. So this is the current affair. But before we move on to the details of the current affair, let us first understand what is electoral bonds. So electoral bonds are like a promissory note. So they act similar to a promissory note, and this is payable to the bearer on demand and it is free of interest. These facts about the electoral bonds are very important for your UPSC preliminary examination. So in your preliminary examination, they would be asking you statement wise questions or factual questions. But in your mains examination, they expect you to analyze each and every problem or each and every issue. So analytical part is important from your mains examination point of view and the factual part more important from your prelims examination point of view. So let us understand what are electoral bonds. They are similar to a promissory note and this will be payable to the bearer on demand and this is free of interest. Again, this can be purchased by a citizen of India or any body incorporated in India. Now, coming to the eligibility conditions of electoral bonds. A party that is registered under the RPA, Representation of People's Act. Any political party registered under the RPA can raise or issue electoral bonds, and there is another condition also. The second condition is that the party must have secured not less than 1% of the votes polled in the preceding election. So these are the two conditions. First of all, the party needs to be registered in the RPA or under the RPA and it must have got at least 1% of the votes polled in the preceding election. And the electoral bonds can be purchased only by a citizen of India. So foreigners cannot purchase a electoral bond, and this bonds can only be encashed by an eligible political party only through one bank account that has been registered for this purpose. So there should be an authorized bank account and the political parties can conduct the transactions of the electoral bonds only through that particular bank account. This is to ensure there is transparency. And the validity of the electoral bonds are for 15 days. This is also very important. So after 15 days, the validity of the electoral bonds will end and the cash donations are capped at 2000 rupees. That means any donation received by a political party which is of amounts more than 2000 shall be in the form of electoral bonds. So cash donations are capped at a rate of 2000 rupees. So these are the most important facts about electoral bonds. Now let us move on. But before that, this is our channel StudyIQ and we are providing pen drive courses for various competitive examinations including SSC and bank courses, UPSC optionals, SSC JE courses, teaching examination, railway examinations, defense examination, RBI grade B, NABARD grade A, UGC NET, UPSC Civil Services Examination, CLAT exams for various state PSCs and also for various professional courses. You can visit our website www.studyiq.com or you can call to any of these numbers for more information. So let us start. As we have discussed in the beginning, the current affair is that the Supreme Court has instructed various political parties that it must detail or furnish the details of the money or donations that the parties have received in the form of electoral bonds, and this should be submitted to the Election Commission of India. So this is to raise the accountability and transparency of donations received by the political parties. Now let us understand what was the case in which Supreme Court has made this judgment. Now, during the year 2017-18, the BJP or the Bharatiya Janata Party, they earned rupees 200 crore from electoral bonds, and the Congress or the INC, Indian National Congress, they earned rupees 15 crore from electoral bonds. So ADR, that is Association for Democratic Reforms, had recently said this statement about the donations received by INC and BJP, and this was based on an analysis of the party's tax returns and contribution statements submitted to the Election Commission. And according to the details released by the ADR, there are no other national party that declared any contributions through electoral bonds. So with this, the ADR, or the Association for Democratic Reforms, they cited there is a lack of transparency in the electoral bonds, and citing this, the ADR challenged the electoral bond scheme in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court considered that the time available was too limited for an in-depth hearing of this case. This is because the upcoming elections or the ongoing Lok Sabha elections were very much near when the case was filed. So the Supreme Court in this regard gave an interim order, and in the interim order, the Supreme Court asked the various political parties to disclose to the Election Commission of India in sealed covers details of the donation that they have received through anonymous electoral bonds. So this was the case, and this was the interim verdict of the Supreme Court. Now let us understand what were the concerns raised. The petitioners, as we said in the beginning, they are ADR, or Association for Democratic Reforms. So the petitioners challenged or questioned the anonymity based funding scheme on the grounds that it promotes opacity. So under an electoral bond, it is not necessary that the name of the donor needs to be disclosed. So this brings in an opacity or lack of transparency, and it opens up the possibility of black money being donated to the parties through shell companies. So there are also chances of money laundering or the use of black money in the electoral process, and it also empowers the ruling party, because only the ruling party is in a position to identify the donors. So this favoritism or favorism towards the ruling party was another concern raised by the petitioner. This is because only the ruling party will be able to know who made the donations, to which party, what is the amount involved, etc. Therefore, the ruling party has a fair chance to influence the donors. So these were the concerns raised by the petitioners in the challenge or the case given to the Supreme Court. Now, coming to the Supreme Court order, let us see how effective will be the order. Now, we can say that the Supreme Court order will not alter the influence of electoral bonds on the ongoing elections. This is because Supreme Court did not get much time, and as we already said, it was only an interim order. It was not a final order because Supreme Court did not get time to go in depth into the matter. So, it will not alter or make any changes on the electoral bonds on the ongoing Lok Sabha elections, but definitely it is a response towards the serious concerns raised about the opacity of the electoral bond scheme. So, it is to be appreciated that the Supreme Court has responded to the opacity of the electoral bond schemes. So, further we can expect that the court will in depth go into the matter and come up with a reasonable verdict. So we can say that with the interim order or with the present order, the status quo will be maintained, and there will not be much influence on the donations received in the form of electoral bonds. So still the ruling party will have an undue influence on the donors, because only the ruling party will be able to know the details of the donors. Now, what are the positives in the Supreme Court order? One positive thing is that the names would now be available with the Election Commission. So, the political parties are now asked to furnish all the details of the money that they have received through electoral bonds. Now, the Election Commission will have the names of the donors, but this will be in sealed envelopes. Now, these names, if the Supreme Court asks, can be made public. And there was also an anonymity that, or a concern that disproportionately large segments of the bonds purchased by the corporate donors has gone to the Bharatiya Janata Party. So this allegation can also be ended, because the Election Commission would be receiving the names in a sealed envelope. So Election Commission will be able to know which party gets the maximum donations from electoral bonds, what is the amount involved, etc. So this donor anonymity may end if the Supreme Court decides that Election Commission should disclose the names at the end of the litigation. So definitely what the Supreme Court in its interim verdict has made is very significant. It has brought in certain confidence and also transparency in the election process. Now, this is only an interim order. So, Supreme Court will definitely go in depth into this matter and definitely will come with reasonable verdicts. And there, Supreme Court can ask the Election Commission to submit the names to the Supreme Court or to bring in more transparency, more degree of transparency. So, we can say that definitely this is a welcome move from the Supreme Court. You can follow my Facebook page for more video updates, and also you can write to me at joyce.studyiq@gmail.com for any of your queries or clarifications. Thank you.